Movember is a charity that raises funds and awareness for men's mental health, prostate cancer and testicular cancer. Today we are reading out anonymous testimonies from male-identifying students of the University of Bristol to help raise awareness of the struggles they've gone through and also let other men know that they are not alone in their struggles.
So, as a first year, uni can come with a lot of challenges. Nothing really prepares you, no matter how mature you think you are, for just how different life becomes so early on. It does scare you, and sometimes when things don't go your way, you're left with very little, as you don't have the same support that you do as you normally would when you're back home. You don't live in your little community or little town or village anymore, so the world's much bigger here, and you can feel small. The problems you have don't feel important, and that only makes things feel worse.
I've had lots of experiences with anxiety, and I knew it would probably flare up again whilst I was at university. When I first moved in, it was definitely hard to settle in, and I felt anxious a lot. But as the months went on, it got easier as I started to make more friends and become more comfortable. Uni felt like a second home.
It was then that I turned to drink, which was definitely exacerbated by the drinking culture at the university. I felt trapped in a cycle of guilt.
In my second year of university, I was pushing myself too hard with my part-time job and my degree. And due to this intense stress, I developed a hand tremor, which at the time I thought was Parkinson's. When I taught the student health service through my lifestyle and how much stress I was under, it became quite clear that I was dealing with intense stress and going through an emotional breakdown. Soon after, my dad had a health scare and was put into intensive care. I had no idea that I could defer my exams, so I still ploughed on relentlessly with my uni work. However, due to my mental breakdown and my intense stress, I ended up failing all my exams.
My second year was very difficult, what with COVID and that, and shifting our practical deadlines back to the end of the year. There was too much to deal with at one time.
I felt increasingly worn down during 2019, and now I can see I was very stressed and depressed. Lockdown hit in 2020, and a week later I tried to kill myself.
So at the end of term 2 last year, when my flatmates went home, I was left alone in lockdown, isolation. My mental health really took a turn for the worse. This was the first time I'd ever felt entirely empty, dejected and hollow. With exams to write, work to do, and no real release of the boredom, felt as if nothing was going in or out of my head. Seeing all my friends still living in full flats, able to interact with people, whether they wanted to, threw me further into this downward spiral, and which I finally realised was depression.
Depression affects my thinking, emotions, perceptions and behavioural tendencies. It steals my voice and taints all aspects of life. It makes everything less enjoyable, less interesting, less important and less worthwhile.
I had a tough start at uni with not finding many, if any, friends in my halls and struggling to integrate myself into a group I felt happy in. Having gone from a really stable friendship back home, it was a bit of a culture shock to then move to uni and not have the same close friendships that I was used to. The constant attempt to try and be interesting and funny person whilst under the pressure of having the time of your life. This, whilst it being fairly uncommon for people to open up to each other about how they were really feeling, in fear of not being the guy people enjoy hanging out with, meant that I became quite socially anxious a lot of the time. This could be about social situations, uni work, or even things that seemed totally unrelated. I eventually found my feet, and now in some happy, very stable friendships, and enjoying uni even more each year.
Yes, I spoke to my family and girlfriend, so I wasn't suffering alone.
For me, it wasn't really about needing specific help. It was more so about being around people who you knew could help you. It was about having spaces where you felt like you weren't on your own, and other people letting you know that it will be hard sometimes to deal with your own issues. But being told your problems matter and that people can help was enough to keep me going.
Help actually found me at first. At the peak of my drinking problem, a close friend sat down with me and told me he was worried about me and that I needed to speak to someone. We then filled in the single access wellbeing form together, and I wrote down everything that was troubling me, including my traumatic experiences. I thought I'd be at the bottom of the pile, similar troubled students, so they take ages to get back to me. But I was really shocked when they rang me that same day.
I was referred to a wellbeing advisor, which ended up being an incredible stroke of luck because she was a volunteer for a sexual assault charity. That meant that, through conversations with her, I was able to finally come to terms with the sexual assault I'd experienced. Before that, I'd kept having flashbacks of the incident, but I tried to push it out of my mind. But through those conversations, I was finally able to come to terms with it.
Unfortunately, silence is often my biggest and most obvious cry for help. But I've been able to reach out to my closest friends. They have always been supportive and helpful.
Yes, I was able to use the student health service and had a few counselling sessions. My friends have also been very understanding.
I was able to seek out some counselling at the beginning of summer. I wasn't well, and the counselling pretty much was the only thing that helped me get through it, really.
After eventually speaking to the student health services and being properly diagnosed with depression and anxiety, I was able to recover, proper counselling support. Further, and for the first time in my life, I chose to speak to my friends about my problems, which helped me to no end.
I feel that male university students are perfectly happy talking about mental health. The real stigma is around male friendship. I feel that there's a key difference in the way in which men communicate with each other, as male friendships tend to be more shoulder to shoulder, whilst female friendships are more face to face. It's not that men don't talk to each other, or that the shoulder to shoulder interaction isn't healthy friendship. We just rarely talk openly about our health, both mental and physical, as men aren't as good as initiating these interactions and conversations. People clearly acknowledge that men's mental health is a huge issue, but we don't acknowledge that the way that we conduct our friendships isn't beneficial.
The stigma is dwindling, but there are still significant barriers when admitting to yourself that you are depressed. It is easy to hit rock bottom well before you've realised.
Absolutely. Yeah, I still hadn't told my parents really how I was feeling at that time in my life, and I sort of blocked it out of my mind, and I still struggled to actually remember how awful I felt for such a long period of time.
Yes, I think there's a really big one. I've only recently become comfortable with talking about it myself, but I still wouldn't discuss it at length with my parents because I think they'd assume it's an epidemic in young people and that we're just all being over dramatic.
It's getting better. In groups, I don't feel pressure to keep quiet anymore, and I know there's support around me. It isn't hard to find.
I don't know if it is a man thing. I've only ever been me. I'm not a sporty stereotype of man, but it is true to say that I had never discussed mental health with anyone until I was forced. I never thought it wasn't the done thing to talk about, just that my feelings and troubles were probably insignificant, while I trouble others who probably have similar problems.
A few of my friends have supported me when I was down, but occasionally they do seem to think that I shouldn't be expressing myself as a man, and have even said so before.
I think for most blokes, yes. But for me, I've been lucky in the sense that me and my friends are very comfortable sharing our vulnerabilities. For me, it's very cathartic to share how I feel, and I've been able to share my feelings so freely as a result of the Movember movement.
Talk to as many people as you can, and don't assume that you're the only one feeling the way you do.
Speak to friends, wellbeing services, and don't be embarrassed. Everyone struggles with their mental health at some point in time, and it's very normal. Talk to anyone you feel comfortable with, and don't keep it all to yourself.
It sounds like the easy standard sort of response, but talk to some of your close friends. It can make the world of a difference. Definitely try to contact the student counselling service because they're pretty kind and really helpful. So yeah, I'd probably say that.
The first step is the hardest. After that, it gets easier. You don't have to talk to your friends. There are many places you can talk and just be listened to. I think there is a worry that mates will laugh or take the piss If that did happen, you just have to reveal who the friends are that really matter.
I really recommend filling in the university's single access wellbeing form. It's a catch-all form introduced to UOB students in 2018. It gets read quickly and they call you back to talk through your needs. You need to be fully honest writing the form. Don't hold anything back. So I recommend writing it with someone you trust with you. Then the uni can take some responsibility in assessing what you need and get you help moving forward.
Speak to friends, wellbeing services, and don't be embarrassed. Everyone struggles with mental health at some point in time, and it's very normal. Talk to anyone you feel comfortable with, and don't keep it all to yourself.
Be honest with people around you. If you are, I'm sure you'll be met with friends and people sharing similar feelings about the things that you're struggling with. Don't feel the need to do things just to fit in. Do what you want to make you feel well. It might mean you lose some superficial friendships, but in the end, it will help you form genuine ones that are really worth it.
I wish I was more patient with myself throughout university and put less pressure on myself. And be patient with your degree, and if you're feeling overwhelmed, take the time out, take a week off to recover and look after myself first. Form good habits and break the bad old ones, and then also just speak to friends. I think it's really important to say the ones who know you best and they actually do care and love about you.
It really is cliche, and the line itself doesn't help in the short term, but life can and often will get better. However, these sorts of feelings aren't V-shaped. Things don't go from depressed to happy. Often there's a long and winding road of emotional rebuilding to do. Savour the good days and really think about what you can do to increase their frequency. Eventually they'll become the norm, but it will take time.
Keep searching for things you enjoy, spend your time as best you can. The best way for me to avoid feeling down is to be active and to keep looking for more things to do to better yourself and keep myself happy. There is so much at this university for you to experience, and the more you do, the more things you'll find in life that you want to be here for.